minute? Feel like you're done? Got your ideas out there? Awesome. All right. Then let's move on. Okay, so we're going to continue to build on this. There'll be a couple more exercises. So the reason we're putting all these exercises together is because we'd like for you to give a lightning talk. And for those of you who are familiar with lightning talks, you know that there's a couple different styles. There's Pecha Kucha, there's Ignite. I'm not going to worry about styles and all of that for now, but just know that there are styles out there, and often it depends on the conference that you go to. We're just going to worry about the plain, vanilla 5 to 7 minute talk. And the reason that this is great is because, one, you don't have to spend a lot of time prepping, right? It's 5 to 7 minutes. It's over before you realize it. And the second is that you can focus it on just a key area, and you don't have to worry about doing a very long talk with lots and lots of information. You're really just giving people an appetizer, like what it is that you worked on very recently, and then if they want, they can come up to you and talk to you afterwards. So really, when we're thinking about structuring a lightning talk, we want to start by thinking about just a couple takeaways, 2 key takeaways, no more than that, and then a good story to lead into it, and then a short conclusion, but nothing more complicated than that. And yes, like I said, you won't have a lot of depth, but that's okay. You want to encourage people to come out and speak to you afterwards. Now, the other thing that's really important is to gauge your audience. And you've already seen my first talk where I talk about how your customer is really important. Well, the same thing applies here. As technologists, we think about who our user is, what they're going through, and how can we create a product that's going to resonate with them. Well, the same thing happens with a talk. We have to think about who's going to be in our audience and why would they find this information valuable. And so as we're thinking about our audience, we have to think about a few things. The first is, what is their level? So if you're giving a talk, let's say your talk is iOS app design or building an iOS app, and you want it to be for beginners, well then you should say that in the summary. You should say this is a talk for beginners, and then make sure that you highlight what a beginner means. Somebody who has some programming experience but maybe doesn't know Swift or Objective-C. Or if you decide instead you want to give an advanced talk, great. You must know some Objective-C, maybe build a Hello World application, but you don't have to have a 5-star app in the App Store yet. The reason that you want to gauge your audience and you want to take the time to highlight it is because you want those people to come out and hear you speak, right? So the last thing you want is droves of people getting up to leave because they're like, oh, I'm so bored, this is clearly not for me, or oh my god, this is over my head, I feel overwhelmed, right? So when you take the time to decide who the talk is for, then you get the right people that come out to hear it. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be on a level, right? It doesn't have to be beginner or advanced. It can also be situational. I had, again, at the Grace Hopper workshop, this woman who said, I want to do a talk on front-end testing, and I really just want it to be for people who don't want to code on the weekend. That they're not sitting there fixing bugs on the weekend. They've got a process in place that gives them the time to spend on their own with their families or whatever. And so her audience was more of a scenario or a use case. But it's important to take the time to think about this. Now, if you're not sure, like if you decide, okay, I don't know the level or the scenario, you can also reach out to whoever's organizing the event or the conference and ask them who's going to be there, where are they from, what kind of audience can I expect, and does it fit with the criteria that I'm thinking of for this topic. So it's really important to think about your ideal audience member. So that's going to be your next exercise, to take the time to now take your talk, craft it into a summary that's going to appeal to people, and those takeaways can be, what are they going to walk away with? Like in this talk, I hope that you walk away with, at the very least, the power pose, right? But what are your takeaways? So go ahead and do the exercise 2. I'll give you another 10 minutes. And then in one of the parts, you're actually going to share your summary with a partner at your table. So that way you can get some feedback on what they think. Does it appeal to them, or would it be appealing to your ideal audience? Make sense? Awesome. I'll set the timer again for about 10 minutes.